I'm here for my shift. I have full authorization to be in this
You
clinic.
don't belong here. I'm just following the rules.
Stop trying to kick me out. This is harassment.
Move now. I won't let you stay if you're causing a scene.
My badge is right here. I'm staff. You know
I don't care about the badge. My job is to protect the
Do you
clinic.
know this could end in a lawsuit? I will not tolerate.
Dr. Alana Hayes, a distinguished neurologist, a leader in her field, an individual whose career was built on academic rigor and compassionate patient care, found herself in a situation that defied all logic, all professionalism, and all human decency. She was forcibly removed from her own clinic, treated not as a respected physician, but as an intruder, a threat, simply for the color of her skin. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a stark, undeniable act of racial discrimination, captured on camera, that would expose not just one man's prejudice, but a deep-seated institutional failure. The man responsible for this egregious act was Thomas Miller, a contract security guard whose record, according to internal security documents later revealed, contained no fewer than 17 formal complaints. 17. These weren't minor infractions. They ranged from aggressive verbal altercations to documented instances of racial profiling. Yet he remained on the job, a ticking time bomb of unaddressed bias, until he encountered Dr. Hayes. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop a comment below and let us know. Your engagement helps us bring these critical stories to a wider audience. It was a Tuesday afternoon, October 24th, at the bustling St. Jude's Medical Center in downtown Atlanta. The air, typically thick with the humidity of the Georgian capital, was crisp and cool, hinting at the approaching autumn. Inside the clinic, however, the atmosphere was its usual controlled chaos, a symphony of hushed conversations, the distant beeping of medical equipment, and the rhythmic squeak of shoe soles on polished linoleum. Dr. Hayes was scheduled for a late afternoon consultation, a complex case involving a rare neurological disorder, a case she had meticulously prepared for, as was her custom. Dr. Alana Hayes, at 42 years old, embodied the pinnacle of medical excellence. A proud alumna of Spelman College, she graduated summa cum laude before earning her medical degree from Harvard Medical School, where her research on neurodegenerative diseases garnered national attention. Her residency at Johns Hopkins was marked by an unwavering dedication to patient advocacy and groundbreaking clinical trials. By the time she joined St. Jude's, she was already a rising star, swiftly ascending to become the head of neurology, a position she had not merely been given, but had profoundly earned through years of relentless effort, intellectual prowess, and an unshakable commitment to her patients. She was a mentor, a leader, a published author in prestigious medical journals, and a pillar of the Atlanta medical community. Her reputation preceded her, built on a foundation of integrity and an impeccable professional record. Thomas Miller, on the other hand, presented a stark contrast. A 58-year-old security guard employed by Sentinel Security Solutions, a third-party contractor for St. Jude's, his professional history painted a disturbing picture. Internal affairs records, later subpoenaed, detailed a pattern of behavior that should flag him for immediate reassessment, if not outright termination. In 2018, a formal complaint was filed by the family of a patient, alleging Miller had used aggressive and racially charged language during a dispute over visiting hours. No disciplinary action beyond a verbal warning was noted. In March 2019, a delivery driver, a black man, reported being subjected to an unwarranted and humiliating stop and frisk by Miller outside the clinic entrance, despite displaying clear identification. That incident resulted in a written reprimand, but no further consequences. Just 8 months prior to the incident with Dr. Hayes, a fellow security guard, Ms. Eleanor Vance, filed a complaint alleging Miller had made a disparaging racist comment about a black colleague in the break room. The complaint was reportedly addressed internally with no visible impact on Miller's employment status. And in January of the current year, a homeless individual seeking shelter in the clinic's waiting area during a severe cold snap reported Miller had used excessive force to remove him, resulting in minor injuries. The clinic's legal team settled that matter quietly, and Miller continued his rounds. The pattern was clear, undeniable, and tragically ignored. The call came into dispatch at approximately 4:17 p.m. It was vague, unsettlingly so. Suspicious person, female, black, professional attire, loitering near the restricted staff entrance. The report originated from an anonymous clinic staffer, later identified as a junior administrative assistant, who claimed she didn't recognize Dr. Hayes, despite the doctor having worked there for nearly a decade. The description was devoid of any actual suspicious activity, focusing instead on demographics and location. It was a call steeped in implicit, if not explicit, bias. Dr. Hayes, oblivious to the prejudiced lens through which she was being viewed, was simply going about her day. She had just parked her car in the designated physician's lot. The crisp autumn air a welcome change from the stale confines of her office. She walked purposefully toward the staff entrance, her leather briefcase in one hand, her hospital ID badge prominently clipped to her navy blazer. It was a mundane, legitimate act, performed hundreds of times by hundreds of medical professionals every single day. She swiped her badge. The green light illuminated and the electronic lock clicked open, granting her access to the sanctity of her professional workspace. As she stepped inside, the sterile calm of the corridor was suddenly shattered. Thomas Miller, uniform starched and grim-faced, materialized seemingly out of nowhere, blocking her path. His posture was confrontational, his eyes narrowed. "Hold it right there," he barked, his voice resonating with an unearned authority. "Where do you think you're going?" Dr. Hayes, momentarily startled, paused. "Excuse me," she replied, her voice calm, composed, but tinged with confusion. "I'm Dr. Hayes, head of neurology. I'm going to my office." She instinctively reached for her ID badge, clearly visible on her lapel, and held it out for him to see. Her photo, her name, her department, all emblazoned on the official St. Jude's identification. Miller barely glanced at it. His gaze was fixed, not on credentials, but on her. "Anyone can fake that," he sneered, dismissing the official identification with a wave of his hand. "I got a report of a suspicious person. You fit the description." "A suspicious person?" Dr. Hayes' brow furrowed. "I am a doctor here. This is my badge. I just swiped in. Are you suggesting this is not legitimate?" She held the badge closer, pushing it towards him, her patience beginning to fray. "I'm suggesting you need to leave the premises," Miller stated, his voice rising, his hand gesturing toward the exit. "Now, or I'll have to escort you out." The audacity was staggering. A respected physician, in her own workplace, being ordered to leave by a security guard who refused to acknowledge her identity. The exchange, sharp and rapid fire, began to draw attention. Clinic staff, emerging from nearby offices, paused, their expressions shifting from curiosity to concern. Patients and their families, waiting in the reception area, craned their necks, their murmurs growing louder. A young nurse, Sarah Jenkins, recognized Dr. Hayes immediately and stepped forward, a look of disbelief on her face. "Officer Miller, that's Dr. Hayes," Sarah interjected, her voice tentative but firm. "She works here. She's the head of neurology." Miller shot her a dismissive glare. "Stay out of this, nurse. I'm handling a security issue." He turned back to Dr. Hayes, his voice hardening. "Last chance. Are you going to leave, or do I make you?" Dr. Hayes, refusing to be intimidated, maintained her ground. "I am not leaving. I have patients to see. I have a right to be here." At that moment, the clinic's administrative supervisor, Ms. Brenda Thompson, a woman known for her calm demeanor and sharp intellect, arrived on the scene, drawn by the escalating commotion. She quickly assessed the situation, her eyes widening in horror as she recognized Dr. Hayes being confronted by Miller. "Officer Miller, what is going on here?" Ms. Thompson demanded, her voice cutting through the tension. Miller, momentarily flustered by the supervisor's presence, stammered, "Ms. Thompson, I'm dealing with a suspicious person who refuses to leave the premises." Ms. Thompson's gaze went from Miller to Dr. Hayes, then back to Miller, settling on his face with an expression of cold fury. "This is Dr. Hayes, Officer Miller, the head of neurology. She works here. This is her clinic. You are to stand down immediately." Her voice was low, but carried an undeniable authority. "I want your badge number, and I want you to hand over your radio. You are relieved of duty, effective immediately." The swiftness of the supervisor's intervention was critical, preventing the situation from escalating further physically. But the damage to Dr. Hayes and to the clinic's reputation was already done. The immediate resolution saw Miller, red-faced and muttering, escorted off the premises by Miss Thompson and another, more junior security guard. Dr. Hayes, shaken but resolute, composed herself and proceeded to her scheduled consultation, the weight of the injustice pressing heavily upon her. Should officers, or in this case, security personnel, who demonstrate such blatant disregard for verified credentials and professional conduct, face automatic termination without appeal? Consider the implications for trust and safety within public institutions. The incident, however, did not end there. Unbeknownst to Miller or even Dr. Hayes, a bystander, a young college student named Marcus Allen, who was waiting for his grandmother, had captured the entire confrontation on his smartphone. From Miller's initial aggressive posture to his dismissal of Dr. Hayes' badge and Ms. Thompson's swift intervention, every damning second was recorded. Marcus, appalled by what he witnessed, uploaded the video to his Twitter account with the caption, "Racist security guard throws black doctor out of her own clinic." This is St. Jude's Medical Center, Atlanta. The video went viral within hours. By that evening, it had garnered millions of views across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. News outlets picked up the story, replaying the footage on repeat. The hashtag Justice for Dr. Hayes trended worldwide, fueling a global outpouring of indignation and support. The clinic's social media channels were inundated with angry comments, calls for accountability, and threats of boycotts. The institutional responses were swift, if not entirely reassuring. St. Jude's Medical Center released a carefully worded statement expressing deep regret and promising a thorough internal investigation. Sentinel Security Solutions, Miller's employer, issued their own statement, emphasizing their zero-tolerance policy for discrimination. But mere statements were not enough. Dr. Hayes, still reeling from humiliation and emotional distress, knew that this incident transcended a single bad actor. It spoke to a systemic failure. With the unwavering support of her colleagues in the local NAACP chapter, Dr. Hayes filed a comprehensive civil lawsuit against both Thomas Miller and Sentinel Security Solutions, as well as St. Jude's Medical Center. The lawsuit, demanding a staggering $4 million in damages, cited racial discrimination, assault, battery, false imprisonment, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. It argued that Miller's actions were not isolated, but a direct consequence of Sentinel's negligent hiring and supervision practices, and St. Jude's failure to ensure a safe and non-discriminatory environment for its staff and patients. The legal battle was intense, drawing national attention. After months of depositions, discovery, and public pressure, the defendants opted to settle. On April 12th of the following year, St. Jude's Medical Center and Sentinel Security Solutions agreed to a joint settlement totaling $4 million. It was at the time the largest settlement in the clinic's history for a racial discrimination claim, a testament to the undeniable evidence and the public outcry. As for Thomas Miller, the consequences were severe. Within 24 hours of the video going viral, Sentinel Security Solutions issued a formal termination letter. The letter, later made public during the lawsuit, unequivocally stated that Miller was being fired for gross misconduct, dereliction of duty, severe violation of professional conduct, and actions that brought disrepute upon the company and its clients. Furthermore, the State Licensing Board for Security Personnel initiated its own investigation, leading to the permanent decertification of Miller's security license. He would never again be permitted to work in a security capacity within the state. In the aftermath of the settlement, Dr. Hayes delivered a powerful, poignant testimony at a press conference that resonated far beyond the confines of the medical center. Her voice, though tinged with the pain of her experience, was steady, resolute. "If this can happen to me," she declared, her gaze sweeping across the assembled journalists, a doctor, a department head, with full, verifiable credentials, in my own place of work, what happens to those without a voice? What happens to the countless individuals who are routinely subjected to discrimination, humiliation, and aggression simply because of who they are, without a camera to capture their truth, without the privilege of a platform to share their story? Her words were a clarion call, a demand for introspection and systemic change. Should an incident of this magnitude, exposing such blatant racial discrimination within a major healthcare institution, automatically trigger a federal investigation into the broader practices of a security company and the hospital's oversight? The Department of Justice, prompted by the widespread outrage in Dr. Hayes' powerful statement, did indeed launch an inquiry. Their findings, released 6 months later, were damning. The investigation uncovered a litany of systemic failures within Sentinel Security Solutions, inadequate anti-bias training, a severely deficient complaint tracking system that routinely downplayed or ignored allegations of misconduct, and a lack of diversity awareness among its predominantly white male security force. St. Jude's Medical Center was also found culpable for insufficient oversight of its third-party contractors, a failure to act on previous complaints against Miller that had been reported directly to clinic administration, and a culture that, while not overtly discriminatory, had allowed a climate of unchecked bias to fester. In response to these findings and the ongoing public scrutiny, both St. Jude's and Sentinel Security Solutions announced a series of sweeping reforms. St. Jude's committed to implementing a new, independent oversight board for all contracted services, with direct reporting lines to the hospital's executive leadership. They also pledged to enhance their internal complaint mechanisms, ensuring all allegations of discrimination are thoroughly investigated and publicly reported. Sentinel Security Solutions, under threat of losing lucrative contracts, introduced mandatory, intensive anti-bias and de-escalation training for all personnel, developed in partnership with civil rights organizations. They also revamped their hiring practices to prioritize diversity and instituted a robust, transparent system for tracking and addressing employee misconduct, with clear disciplinary actions tied to specific infractions. This incident, however, was not just about one security guard and one doctor. It was a searing indictment of a broader systemic issue, a stark reminder that even in professional settings, even with impeccable credentials, deeply ingrained biases can override all evidence, all reason, and all professional courtesy. Thomas Miller saw not Dr. Alana Hayes, the esteemed neurologist, but a suspicious person who fit the description, a description born of prejudice, not fact. The consequences for Miller were deservedly severe, but the initial failures of both Sentinel Security Solutions and St. Jude's Medical Center to address his prior conduct allowed this injustice to occur. It was a painful, public lesson in the cost of complacency. The challenge now is not simply to punish the individual, but to dismantle the systems that enable such individuals to operate with impunity. What changes now? Beyond the headlines and the settlements, how do we ensure that the reforms announced are not just performative, but truly transformative? We propose that all public-facing security personnel, whether employed directly or contracted, be mandated to undergo annual, independently audited anti-bias training with clear, severe penalties, including immediate termination and decertification, for any documented instance of racial profiling or discrimination. Furthermore, independent citizen review boards should be established to oversee security operations in all healthcare and public institutions, providing an external layer of accountability. What are your thoughts on these proposals? Should such measures be enshrined in policy? Share your perspective in the comments below. This story, like so many others we cover, is not just about Dr. Alana Hayes. It's about all of us. It's about the fundamental right to move through the world, to exist in our professional spaces, without fear of discrimination, without being judged solely by the color of our skin. We're not stopping until these stories ignite true, lasting change. Join us in demanding accountability.